Blog Talk Radio.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. I like this introduction this morning. It sounds really good. It's a good feeling to be able to wake up and be on this side of the dirt. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Locker Talk with host Barry Barnes on the Best in News Radio Network, where you'll hear about NFL stars of tomorrow today. I am your host, Barry Barnes, founder and CEO of Locker-Report.com. Well, folks, here we go. Championship weekend, NFL-style, NFL version, where we have the AFC and the NFC Championship games played this Sunday to decide who will ultimately play in Super Bowl 54 in beautiful Miami, Florida. This weekend is definitely super special, knowing that with the NFL Regional Combine guys, the vein of the NFL that I cover through the NFL Regional Combine process. Really excited to see that we have a few young men who I saw once were unknown players, that when they started their workouts during the Regional Combine trials, all these guys always started off on one knee as they were receiving instructions on what to expect for that day, and to see how a few of these young men that went through that process, that was counted out at one time, but actually were able to generate an NFL career, and now to have the opportunity to play in two games to decide to get to the ultimate game, the game they have dreamed of since they were children, to play in the Super Bowl. So it's definitely always special to see when the guys from the platform make it this far into the season and actually be a part of this run. So we have in the NFC, the San Francisco 49ers, they will host the Green Bay Packers. And in the AFC Championship game, the Kansas City Chiefs will host the Tennessee Titans. And myself, I will be at that game, covering that title game. Looking forward to seeing the guys that came from the NFL Regional Combine, to see and talk to those guys. No matter who wins or who loses, to be able to be in that atmosphere, I definitely take that as a privilege. You know, like how they say, to play in the NFL is a privilege, and to be able to cover an NFL game of this magnitude, that's a privilege as well that I bestowed onto myself. So I'm really excited about my opportunity of going to Kansas City to cover that game. Now, although I talk about the NFL Regional Combine players, which is the forte and the reason for Locker Talk, and you guys can always shoot me a message directly in any one of my social handles on Twitter, Locker_report, Instagram, LockerReport100, all small caps, Facebook, LockerReport.com, or you guys can always simply shoot me an email at barrybarnes@locker-report.com. But today we're going to talk about the game. I'm going to give you my breakdown of the contest, talk about both sides of the ball, how both teams are able to pull out the wins, and then ultimately give my prediction of who I believe will play in Super Bowl 54, but also talk about the players from the NFL Regional Combine, who will be there, what to expect from those guys, and then moving forward, going towards the season, heading towards the Super Bowl, and then after the Super Bowl, that's when things kick off with your host, Barry Barnes, with Locker-Report, as we start to get rocking and rolling for the workouts for the Regional Combine trials. That's when the evaluation process starts. So as you can see, the NFL season never ends. For me, it's just the playing season part is over, but the season, the league continues on, and then to be a part of that is a privilege as well. You listen to Locker Talk on the Best of News Radio Network with your host, Barry Barnes, founder and CEO of Locker-Report.com. All right. Now, there's certain things to look forward to for this weekend as the conference games kicks off. Now, entering this season, in regards of running backs, league rushing running backs, Derrick Henry for the Tennessee Titans led this season in rushing with 1,540 yards. Now, he is the sixth running back to help lead their team to their conference championship game. However, there were only 3 running backs that led the league in rushing that got to the Super Bowl, which was Shaun Alexander in 2005 when he was a part of the Seattle Seahawks, Terrell Davis in 1998 when he was at Denver Broncos, and of course Emmitt Smith when he did it in 1992, 93, and 95. However, out of those 3, 2 of those running backs, and Terrell Davis and Emmitt Smith, had helped their team to win the Super Bowl. So Derrick Henry is sitting in good company with a couple of Hall of Fame running backs. So if he and the Titans are to pull off another upset, he will be the 4th league-leading rusher to help their team get to a Super Bowl. And then 2 weeks later, let's see where he joined Emmitt Smith and Terrell Davis as the 3rd running back to help their team win the Super Bowl after leading the league in rushing. So that's something to look out for, especially knowing that Derrick Henry has been the hottest player during this postseason run. Now we want to get to some breakdowns. Now we're going to start with the NFC East, which I think is going to be none of these games are easy. This is the NFL; anything can happen. And although these games was played out during the regular season, that these opponents have faced each other. Now, it's great to go back and look at what happened during the regular season when these opponents faced each other. And we know that the 49ers had beat, hands down, easily, the Green Bay Packers when they faced. And we know that Tennessee Titans had beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 10. So to pull on that, you really can't. You really can just judge on the way how the players are playing recently. We know after coming off their byes last week, the 49ers looked pretty hot. They rocking and rolling. The Green Bay Packers in a tough matchup with the Seattle Seahawks. Everybody is always in a tough situation they play against Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. We saw the way how the Chiefs came out slow last week, then all of a sudden just caught fire, and we all know about the Tennessee Titans. They've been road grading every opponent this postseason, including my New England Patriots, my man Tom Brady. They went to Foxborough and kicked their behind. So it's great to see stuff like this happen. That's why I don't fall in love with teams. The teams will always break your heart, but the game itself, the NFL will not. So that's the part that I love about this game so much. Now, starting in the NFC, the 49ers, to me, is like the complete team. They can run, they can pass, they play great defense, solid in the secondary. One of the very few teams, perhaps probably the only team in the league that do not have to blitz. That is a luxury, folks, where you do not have to blitz an offense. You can send your front 4 and say, go to work and have your other 7 play and drop back. That is awesome. And that's something that the 49ers have. And I do not see the 49ers slowing down, knowing they have that. The Jimmy G playing in his first postseason game last week looked pretty sharp. Now, since he has some kind of rhythm going on, I think that he's going to pick up from where he was at, I would say, before the postseason start, when he was more than just a game manager. He was actually making plays down the field. I really don't see too much of the 49ers changing everything. They're going to use their backfield, use their complementary pieces in the running game to help sustain the clock. to help take pressure off Jimmy G and allow him to take his shots down the field when he go for his all-pro tight end, George Kittle, and also go to Emmanuel Sanders, a veteran wide receiver, where they have players there that can really make some stuff happen. And then you have Samuel Debo. These guys are legit. They solid across the board. So there's nothing really that the 49ers need to step away from. But it's all about with the Packers. And we know that Aaron Rodgers loves to throw the ball. We know that he's all in and trying to make things happen with his arm. This is something that the future Hall of Famer had always done. And always at the same time can be a little concerning knowing that should he scale back at his age. One of the things that Aaron Rodgers has suffered throughout, I would say, since his first Super Bowl win is a lack of a running game. With the running game that they was trying to find, and also the defense side of the ball were certain situations that the Packers needed. However, with all that being said, Aaron Rodgers would put the team in harm's way a lot of times because he feels as though that he's a gunslinger, which he is, and he felt as though that he can just win the game on his own. Okay, now he's in his mid-30s. He needs to scale back a little bit. Let's see what kind of pieces that we can put around Aaron Rodgers so he can at least sustain a long career like a Drew Brees, like a Tom Brady. Okay, let's build up this defense. Let's get some players to carry the load in the backfield, which they do when they have Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams. The big question is, will the Packers allow their running game to be featured in this game? If the Packers get down by one possession, will they be in a situation where they would rely on that running game? Will Aaron Rodgers go back to his muscle memory and just let his arm do the work? Will he, I would say, scale down and not necessarily, I don't want to be strong and say put himself in the limelight or think about himself, say that, or pound his chest, say that I can do it. But will he be able to allow that running game to really help him pull off an upset in San Francisco? It's capable. This is the playoffs. And when I say anything can happen, anything can happen. The Packers have adequate pieces there. Aaron Rodgers helped make the pieces around them look very good out there. Devontae Adams, one of the best wide receivers in the league. We saw what he was able to do last week against Seattle in tough spots. We saw Aaron Rodgers go right to him, and there's not much for any defense to actually contain and slow him down. One of the wrinkles that the 49ers did last week, and oftentimes you see that they will have cornerback, future Hall of Famer, I believe, and Richard Sherman lined up on the left side of the field last week with against the Seahawks. Now, what they did early in the season, it's too late to make a whole bunch of changes, but they will put a couple of wrinkles in there. Will they just keep Richard Sherman on the left side of the field and just double Devontae Adams on the right-hand side of the field, and then whoever is available for Aaron Rodgers, whether if it's one of the other young receivers they have, will they allow Richard Sherman to suffocate and put a stranglehold on the other wide receivers while they were double-team Devontae Adams? This is going to be something to see. This is what they did last week against the Seattle Seahawks. They'll just move around certain pieces just to create a wrinkle. But to see these guys do a complete overhaul from what they did early in the season or what they did in the regular season, it's too much. It's too late for that. They wanted to roll with what had worked for them last week, and I believe that they will pull this game out. I really don't see Aaron Rodgers scaling back to the point where he's going to allow that running game to help him sustain through that game. The 49ers, like I said, very unique defense. They do not have to send pressure. They do not have to blitz. They can send that pressure with their forefront that they have there, and they can get to Aaron Rodgers. If they do pull off a couple of blitzes, they're going to go at it. They're going to go for it. But it's going to be something to see how these guys play out on Sunday. But I do see the 49ers pulling this game out. We're going to take a quick pause. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about the AFC game, that breakdown. That's going to be a Marshall breakdown for that. And then we're going to talk about the guys from the NFL Regional Combine who will the ones that will have a factor in these championship games this weekend. You listen to Locker Talk on the Bachelor News Radio Network. Stay posted. All right, welcome back to Lock and Talk with your host, Barry Barnes, on the Bachelor News Radio Network, where you hear about NFL stars of tomorrow today. I'm your host, Barry Barnes, founder and CEO of Locker-Report.com. And you guys can always shoot out any message or follow me in any one of my social handles. Twitter, Locker_Report, Facebook, LockReport.com, Instagram, LockReport100, all small caps. Where you guys can simply shoot me a message via email at barrybarnes@locker-report.com. All right. Make sure you guys always stay tuned in with the Bachelor News Radio Network, where we are plugged in on all types, anything in regards to news. You know, whether it's politics, religion, sports, of course, entertainment, social matters. Make sure you guys stay tuned in and locked in on Bachelor News Radio Network, where everything is covered. Everywhere from the Donaldson Files with host Tom Donaldson and Coco Coshney. When you hear the Dr. Larry Show, where he comes on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. With the Donaldson Files, they come on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then Sandy Secrets, you always listen to her as well. So, and of course, your homeboy, your friend here, Barry Barnes, Lock and Talk on Fridays from 9 to 9:30. Now, off to the AFC conference game, the championship game, where I'll be at. Looking forward to that matchup. I think it's going to be pretty much the most competitive game this weekend. I think that's going to be the one that's going to pretty much have the fans at the edge of their seat in this game, because anything can happen in this matchup. Now, the big question, the pose for this game is, it may sound odd, but can the Chiefs' offense be their worst enemy? And the reason why I said that is because the Chiefs' offense is so explosive. Patrick Mahomes, the reigning MVP, this dude can walk on the field, and I tell you, he can make anything happen quickly on the field. So you can never count this team out. He's one of the very few quarterbacks that if he's on the 20-yard line and it's 20 seconds left on the clock, this kid can get them in field goal range. And he's just phenomenal. So this offense is fantastic. And when you hear that breakdown and have that type of quarterback, the first thing coming to your mind is like, whoa, they're always going to be in the game, which is true. However, a team that scores fast always put their defense in a situation where they're going to be on the field longer. So this defense going to go against two things this weekend. They got to go against that beast and Derrick Henry, where the Titans is going to eat clock and use that dude. And when it comes to the fourth quarter, the Chiefs is going to be worn down. It was like that in Week 10. Now, for me, postseason has always come down to tendencies. Really don't look at too much with the stat. But when we watch that game, that's going to be one thing that could be a constant. And the Chiefs' defense is going to be tired late in that game, because they got to deal with Derrick Henry. And also, when Patrick Mahomes comes on that field, he's going to move the ball down there quickly, and they're going to score, which won't give that defense enough time to really rest the way they need to. So it's going to be one of those things that the Chiefs, will they be balanced enough to be able to use their running game with Williams, and also sometimes take, just being considerate and not trying to score too fast. It's kind of hard. You don't want to, take the foot off the pedal. So it's one of those dynamics about the Chiefs' offense. You don't hear nobody talk about this, but there's something to think about. Can the Chiefs' offense be their worst enemy? Hopefully it does not, especially for, the Kansas City Chiefs fans. But that's one thing to throw out there. But in that matchup in Week 10, and I have to talk about this, The Chiefs pretty much dominated that game for the most part, but late in the game, Derrick Henry started to have his way. The Chiefs' defense started to get tired. However, the Chiefs could have put the game away with a field goal late in the midway through the fourth quarter. Only problem was there was something that happened on the snap, and all of a sudden you saw that there was a grounding situation, and then the Chiefs lose the ball, lost it down. That's when Tennessee got the ball, struck quickly. Then late in the game, to close the game out, Patrick Mahomes, 30-yard line, get the ball down the field, got in the field goal range. The kick was blocked. So special teams breakdowns of the Chiefs happened in the Week 10. I do not expect that to happen this week, but that played a huge role. Also, one of the things that hurt is that Williams has to secure the ball when he had the opportunity to carry the ball for the Chiefs. He looked really good early in that game, but when he had that fumble, and then all of a sudden you saw the Chiefs. You had the Titans scoop and score with Evans, pick the ball up, took the ball down the field. Williams is pretty much mentally out of that game, and so everything fell on Patrick Mahomes, which is okay. He threw the ball 50 times, over 400 yards. He had a fantastic game. But Williams definitely had to control the ball and secure the ball and not commit any turnovers. Now, the Tennessee Titans is one of those teams. Now, I'm going to say it for the record. I like seeing defensive teams win Super Bowls. I just love the way how we have grown men go out there and impose their will on other teams and make the other teams not want no more. So in my heart of hearts, I love everything about the Tennessee Titans. And when you have a defensive-minded team, you do not want to surrender the ball to them often in the game because they will take advantage of it. One of the things that the Titans was very great, that was really good this postseason, was taking advantages of the mistakes that the Patriots made and, of course, what Baltimore made. Immediately they went down the field, they scored, put points on the board. Now, granted, the New England Patriots, Tom Brady didn't have the type of weapons that he needed around him to be effective, but that game was a whole lot more competitive than the Baltimore Ravens game. We know Lamar Jackson, MVP, run the ball, break Michael Vick's record. Ravens 14-2 in the regular season. Heard me say this many times. Regular season is cute. That's for kids. Who cares about the regular season? Grown men play in the postseason. A grown men group of teams came into my city last week, beat on this cute team that looked good during the regular season. They imposed their will on them, and now they're sitting at home like myself. Only thing is I get to go to the title game. They won't. But it's another story. One of the things that you'll see what the Titans do, they will take advantage of mistakes. The Chiefs do not want to have mistakes on the field because the Tennessee Titans is the type of team that can make a team pay for being careless. And I don't expect the Chiefs to be careless. I really believe that the Titans are going to come out and continue to play how they've been playing. They're going to run the ball, but their defense is very disciplined. You will not see their defense or their defenders playing out of position during the games. You will not see their linebackers trying to go all the way down the field. You won't see their secondary guys playing out of their positions in the back end. They're going to see these guys very disciplined with Dean Pease, Mike Rabel, solid guys through their coaching and with Mike Rabel with his playing ties with the Patriots. Also, he was the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't want to hear nothing about the crowd. Tennessee went to Foxborough. They came to Baltimore. Loud venues. They passed that. They ain't worrying about how loud the Chiefs fans is going to be. They already know how they're going to be their silent count. They're very disciplined, and they're going to see these Titans come in and put in work against the Chiefs. However, one of the things I know with the Chiefs are something that the Ravens and the Patriots were not. They were not, I would say, on the offense side of the ball, intimidating. Their offenses was not explosive like the Chiefs, and that's the thing that's going to separate with the Titans. The Chiefs' offense is very explosive. They have a playmaker in a quarterback that can run the ball and pass the ball. One of the things that the Chiefs have to also do on the defense is that when Derrick Henry takes a breather, they have to get to Ryan Tannehill. They have to stop him because the last time they played, the only thing you can see as far as with the tendencies, because the Chiefs was tired a couple of times in that second half, Ryan Tannehill made them pay with his legs. So when Derrick Henry is taking a breather, Tannehill, the ball's going to be put in his hands, and the Chiefs have to get to him. They got to him early in the game. Late in the game, they did not. They had to figure out a way to make sure they stay fresh to get to Ryan Tannehill, so Ryan Tannehill will not break them down on his occasional passes, but most importantly, his legs. I do see the Chiefs coming out victors. Also, the Patriots are gone. I just got on the Chiefs bandwagon, and I see these guys playing the 49ers in Super Bowl 54. Like I said, anything can happen. I'm looking forward to a solid matchup, but that's my breakdown of both teams on how both teams can win, what you should expect in these two matchups. Now, you listen to Locker Talk with host Barry Barnes on the Bachelor News Radio Network, where you hear about NFL starts of tomorrow today. And we're going to get right into that. We'll start with the Chiefs center, Austin Ritter, who came through the NFL Regional Combine process in 2015. He actually was drafted by the Washington Redskins, played sometime with the Cleveland Browns, but he wound up going to the Chiefs. So last year, their starting center at that time, Mitch Mercer, got injured. Austin came in, took over. Mitch wound up going to Buffalo. Austin became their starting center. Austin has been a part of this run this season, being Patrick Mahomes' third eye in this entire season. You know, one of the things they would always say in football, that it's great to have a smart quarterback, but you want to have a center that's smarter. You want to have a center that can actually point out certain things that the quarterback sometimes may overlook or miss. And that's the importance of a center in the NFL. And Austin has been able to fit that bill, helping Patrick Mahomes to recognize certain coverages on the field. When we saw what happened last week when they were down by the Houston Texans. Now, the Texans took advantage of the special teams breakdowns that the Chiefs had last week, and that's when you saw the times when the Texans did take advantage of the Chiefs' defense, of having their wide receivers getting behind the secondary of the Chiefs. But they got that tightened up, and of course we saw they came back in a blowout win. The Chiefs' secondary has gotten a lot better. Can they stop the run? They're not the best at it. However, when it comes down to the offense, knowing that Patrick Mahomes is there, but to know that we have a player from the NFL Regional Combine who came from South Florida, that's a center, that's out there with the reigning Super Bowl MVP, on the verge of getting to Super Bowl 54. This is definitely an awesome thing for Austin to be able to accomplish if they are able to get past the Tennessee Titans. For the Tennessee Titans, they have a defensive back, Chris Milton, who was on the IR, and they have a linebacker, the Nigel Harris, who's back on the practice squad. He was active. Now he's back on the practice squad, so I don't really see too much of these guys when they take the field, but I will see these guys on Sunday. Now, over in the NFC, backup quarterback Nick Mullins, who took over for Jimmy Garoppolo last year because due to ACL injury. Nick Mullins played very well last year as a backup. And if something was to happen to Jimmy, now we know Jimmy can get hurt really quick. Anything can happen. If that was to happen, hopefully it does not. Don't worry, Nick Mullins will fill in. He will step in. It'll be the biggest game he has played in his entire life. And let's say if that was to happen and Nick Mullins stepped onto that field, and let's say if he do help get these guys past the Green Bay Packers, we may have an NFL Regional Combine quarterback, just saying, could be a starting Super Bowl quarterback, which would be great. Now, for me, I'm voting for content. That would be some awesome content if that was to happen. But I do not want to wish anyone no injury. We want the fans to enjoy their starters, these stars in the league in the biggest game of the year. And for the Green Bay Packers, tight end Robert Tonyan, who is being used sparingly this season. However, whenever his number was called, number 85, he always stepped up to the plate and always hauled in those passes from Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully they use him a lot or use him accordingly this week. I think they will need him because who they going up against in the 49ers, that will be a wrinkle. Like I said, they're not going to change too much, but that could be a wrinkle that the Green Bay Packers could use against that 49ers defense, because there's not a lot of tape on him, but everyone knows that Robert is a legit player, and it's just a matter of time for Robert to really explode on the scene in the NFL. Well, this wraps up for today's show on Lock and Talk. Check the show out next week. I will have some interviews that I'll be playing on the show with some reactions from the players, primarily from the regional combine. I may get a couple of stars on there too, but not there for them. I'm here for the guys that came through the NFL regional combine process. Make sure where you are that you stay safe, wherever your destinations you get to this weekend, and then wherever you get to, make sure you watch these games. I'll be plugged in. Hope you guys be plugged in. Be plugged in on Lock and Talk next week, where you hear about NFL stars of tomorrow today. Always reach me directly via email at barrybarnes@locker-report.com, Twitter, locker_report, Facebook, lockerreport.com, and on Instagram, lockerreport100, all small caps. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, because I will have some nice videos on there. Everyone stay blessed. Enjoy these games this weekend.
Welcome to Pro Talk with the Mighty Obo with our special guest commentator, the insider himself, George the Radman Radney. How you doing, George?
Wonderful. Glad to be here. Hope all is well.
We've got a lot going on in sports as we get ready to preview Final Four weekend in the NFL. But before we go to that, man, there is some turmoil going on in Major League Baseball. George, you just want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, with the Houston Astros. Once again, I don't know what it is about the city of Houston. They have a lot of controversial things that take place down there.
Mm-hmm.
The Texans, and now with the Astros, their manager, or not their manager, but their bench coach at the time, Alex Cora, A.J. Hinch was the manager, and allegedly, why would the first thing, number one, why would Major League Baseball put the replay cameras in the dugout of the home teams? Why? And then number two, why would it be on real time?
Right.
Why wouldn't you have it like 7 seconds or 10 seconds apart? So something like this couldn't happen if somebody thought about doing something like this. And I guess Alex Cora was sitting there looking at it and said, "Hey, we could do this," and got a few other people involved. But the thing about it is, all the players were involved because all of them were using it.
Right.
And so I guess Major League Baseball decided not to suspend the players and you could have suspended them 10 games each or 20 games each, but stagger it. Some of the guys won't start the season, other guys start. That's what, to me, they should have did for the Astros. They should have suspended the players as well as the manager. A.J. Hinch was suspended by Major League Baseball for a year, as well as the general manager, Lou Now, who I didn't like and didn't respect how he did with the women issue. And that's a whole other thing that happened earlier in the playoffs when the guy made the comment about the assistant general manager made the comment about the female about the Okora, the pitcher, Azuna the pitcher, and made comments about that, and that was a whole big uproar. But this one's even bigger. You got to get the owner comes out, he fires the general manager, fires the head coach, the coach. Which makes sense. A.J. Hinch is fired, but the thing what gets me, Mighty Oba, why would the coach A.J. Hinch, who's in charge of the dugout, who's the boss and running, why would he let a bench coach do something that he realizes is illegal? He may at first say, "Well, yeah, let's try it," but then he said, "Wait a minute, man, I got a bad feeling. This isn't right, man. Why would he make this guy stop at all? Say, no, let's cut this off."
Right.
Why wouldn't he do that?
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Not at all.
So either you were down with it too, and then the thing what really makes it very suspicious to me is Carlos Beltran was involved in it. They implicated him as well as Alex Cora.
Right.
Why would Alex Cora, being a bench coach, we never heard of him? Why would the Boston Red Sox hire him as their next manager?
Makes no sense.
And then now the Mets hire Carlos Beltran as their manager, and Beltran just retired. We know he doesn't have experience in managing. He obviously has experience in cheating.
Yeah.
So, did you guys? It seems to me a lot more of these teams in Major League Baseball are involved in this. Because
Absolutely.
why would you hire a guy? He said, "Hey, my system that I have." I can see Alex Cora talking to the Red Sox. "Hey, my system. You see, we just won a World Series because of my system.
Right.
Now we implement my system here in Boston. Hey, I think we can win a World Series here too." So Boston hires them. And this is all allegedly. This is all my thought process. And then now the Mets hire Carlos Beltran, who really shouldn't be a manager because he doesn't have the experience to be a Major League Baseball man. He never managed in the minor leagues. He never went through the ranks or nothing. And so this whole thing is very it's starting to really.
Probably the owners be a rippling effect throughout Major League Baseball when all's said and done.
And then you go back to that year 2 years ago when the Astros won the World Series. Back in September, Major League Baseball came out with a statement to all the teams saying, "Don't use the replay camera don't use it as an option to cheat or to see pitches, to do anything illegal that could alter ball games." So for Major League Baseball to make that announcement in September before you get to the playoffs tells me that they knew something was going on.
Definitely.
The word had got around that teams were using the replay machine. But why wouldn't you just change it? Major League Baseball, all you had to do was just make it a 10-second delay.
Well, we're going to see how that comes out. It's going to be a pretty big story as it unfolds. It already is. But it's going to be interesting to see how far this cheating scandal goes throughout Major League Baseball and how is Major League Baseball now going to try to clean up its act. It dealt with the steroids era and some other things, but this is pretty big when you catch coaches and managers cheating off replay. This is Bill Belichick in Major
League Baseball. And then, of course, he goes to Boston. Oh, yeah, you cheat. Yeah, come on up. They open him with open arms and welcome Alex Cora to Boston. I mean, come on, you like a guy like this. Wait a minute, you got a system? Wait a minute, what is that? Wait a minute, what is it? Oh, come on, man. Yeah, you are. Because I was wondering, I said, who is Alex Cora? I remember when he first got the job. I was like, man, I never even heard of this cat. And he was on, and then I found out he was a bench coach.
Oh, boy.
He wasn't even making decisions.
Right.
So how are you going to, see, that's why, man, this thing is getting really shaky. And for the Mets and Boston, both of those teams look very bad now. And the Mets, you know, they desperate to win. They would use that system of how they worked it. And Major League Baseball, for you not to change the clock, the camera, and take it out of their dugout and make it like a 7-second delay is ridiculous to me. You're just asking for somebody to cheat.
Absolutely.
So this story is going to continue, and we're going to find out, like you just said, the ripple effect, and I'm sure it's going to be a much more and, you know, Altuve had a crazy season that year, too.
Right.
So you're really implicating a team that guys that, if they were cheating, if they weren't, it kind of does look like they were cheating because those guys were hitting the ball like crazy that season, man. They were hitting Springer, George Springer, all of those guys. The other shortstop, I can't think. He had a big hit in the World Series there. I mean, still, you had to go 7 games to beat the Yankees and to beat the Dodgers, but still, you weren't doing it the right way, and I think that's going to always be a tainted mark on Houston, the Astros. Unless they can come back and prove that, hey, they can win without any type of assistance. And Alex Cora, what do you think his penalty should be? Because he did it with 2 teams.
Hey, suspensions, forfeit of games, maybe forfeit of a World Series.
Do you think he should be blackballed?
Well,
does he deserve another job in Major League Baseball?
At this point, no. I mean, based on what we believe to be fact, no. If you're doing that, you have no business in athletics. You have no business in professional athletics or athletics, period, because you're disingenuous to the game itself, and he needs to be removed permanently. In my eyesight, only my eyesight.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that, but I agree. I think, especially after they told you before in September, before the World Series,
right?
And you did it. You won the World Series. Your team that you were on, the Astros, won the World Series. But then you had the audacity to go to a whole nother city, a whole nother team, and do the exact same thing. And I'm also wondering, Flyers, the gentleman the pitcher that told, I'm just wondering, will he ever get a job again in Major League Baseball?
We'll see. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing unfolds, and we're just going to have to keep our eye on that. Make sure you tune in to us at 105.5 FM Saturday morning at 7 a.m. We'll continue our discussion as this big-time controversy in Major League Baseball begins to unfold.
And we have Kim Davis from the Chalk Talk, Houston reporter who covers the Houston Astros and the Houston Texans as well.
Yeah.
She'll be scheduled to be on the show this coming Saturday morning as well.
Yeah, we'll get some information on that. And also, let's move to the NFL Hall of Fame. They announced their coaches, contributors, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Cowher. Any problem with that?
Bill Cowher, I don't know. I still kind of feel a little shaky about Cowher getting in there. Jimmy Johnson, the only reason why I feel a little suspect about him getting in there is that he had a great team. It was hard to if you didn't win a Super Bowl with the team that the Cowboys, and then again he helped assemble that team, so that was a great team. Of the two, he deserves a little more than I think Bill Cowher. I really, but if you really come push to shove, I don't think either one of them deserve to be in. And I think most of them are getting in because they're on TV. You get to hear them. You get to hear their ex-players like Troy Aikman talk about how great Jimmy Johnson was and how great so-and-so was and blah, blah, blah. And you don't hear about some of the other guys who unfortunately didn't get TV jobs and they're not on there. Like you mentioned someone like a Drew Pearson. That's a guy that should have been in there. He's a no-brainer.
Right.
Why isn't he in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, Drew Pearson was snubbed. Randy Gradishar and coaches from the category of coaching. I think Tom Flores deserved to be in there before Bill Cowher and Jimmy Johnson and our own Marv Levy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, Tom Flores
this is a championship coach. He was a good coach at with the Raiders, and I think he deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. He should have been in there already. Also, I give you another one. A lot of people aren't talking about. Otis Taylor is not a Hall of Famer. Most people don't realize.
Really?
That.
He's not a Hall of Famer.
And the Kansas City Chiefs are playing this weekend. Puts more eyes on the team, but also some of the great players they had in the past. They had some of the great players of the late 60s and early 70s, and Otis Taylor was one of the best receivers of his day. He is not in the Hall of Fame.
That's unbelievable. Really.
Yeah.
I tell you what, people out there in TV land, please Google Otis Taylor, and hopefully they'll show some nice footage. They'll have footage back there in the late 60s and the early 70s. He was unstoppable. What was he, about 6'9", 6'8"?
No, that was somebody else.
6'6". Otis Taylor was a tall guy.
He was good size, but he wasn't that tall. Man. I was a Kansas City Chief fanatic.
Yeah, I liked him too.
He was good size, but he wasn't that tall. That's your Harold Carmichael type size.
Oh, Harold Carmichael. But
yeah,
Otis Taylor played big, though.
Yeah.
He played big, and he's also famous for a drop kick on Ben Davison. You remember that drop kick he put on Ben Davison? Man, that guy, Otis Taylor, did not play. He was a hard-nosed football player, and he should be recognized. And for them not to have recognized
I'm
him,
shocked he's not in.
Yeah.
Back in the day, Kansas City Chiefs were my favorite team. Buck Buchanan, Willie Lanier, all those guys, Bobby Bell, some of the great teams of all time. Won a Super Bowl. They beat was supposed to be one of the best teams ever assembled, the Minnesota Vikings and the Purple People Eaters. They beat them in the Super Bowl in 1970, and I thought Otis Taylor was a sure-in for the Hall of Fame, and surprised that he is not in. Also, this week, organization that now George is a member of, the Pro Football Writers Association, they named their Offensive Rookie of the Year, which is Josh Jacobs. He had a great year, ended in injury. But I voted for Devin Singletary. And the reason I think that Devin Singletary of the Buffalo Bills did not win Rookie of the Year is because he didn't have enough touches. And that's on Brian Dable.
Yeah, Brian Dable.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't understand it.
He
averaged 5.1 yards a carry. He was out, 2 games, with a hamstring injury. But other than that, he did not have enough touches.
And he didn't get enough touches, also not only Brian Gable, but the quarterback position.
Right.
If your quarterback can throw a simple screen pass, he would have been receiving a lot more touches. It was obvious Brian Dable did not trust him with the screens, because when Matt Barkley, as slow as Matt Barkley is, Matt Barkley did about 10 screen passes in the last game of the season against the New York Jets. So that tells you that Dable knows about the screens. He knows Singletary is good because he set it up for the guy, for T.J. Yeldon on that particular day. So Singletary is just as good as Yeldon with screen passes. And I think your quarterback position has hurt the Bills' offense, and it definitely hurt Devin Singletary with his growth and his production this year. Because if they would have implemented the screen pass, and with a center like Morris who can get out there now, we got a center that can get out to the outside fast enough and can make some blocks. Come on, it's a shame.
Big plays.
Big play. When are the Bills going to do something about that quarterback position?
Well, they need to do something.
Yeah.
Because their quarterback, to me, is mediocre at best. People don't like us saying it, but the numbers are the numbers. I think he's got a good zeal for the game as far as his attitude, and he wants to play, but
culture. He got all that, but the boy just can't play.
He can't
play.
He has no accuracy in his throws, and
if you can't
throw that team.
If you can't throw a simple screen pass or a simple out consistently, it's something wrong with you.
Right.
And there's something wrong with Josh Allen. He can't make those throws because his footwork is so bad. And then what I didn't realize until we saw late in the season, and then the last time we saw Josh Allen was imploding down there in Houston, Texas. The man imploded on himself. He just blew himself up. I mean, his brain just blew up. He didn't know what to do. And that comes with coaching, too. The coach should have called timeout, taken him out the game, and put Matt Barkley in there just to try to calm the young man down. Because, you see, the young man was in no condition to play professional football. He doesn't know how to think. He can't read a defense. He didn't know. He saw the blitzers. He didn't know how to move the tight end over to the other side or the running back to hit the cover the blocker, to give him time to throw the ball. And then on top of it, he rolls out into the pressure.
Right.
The man rolls to the pressure. How can you roll to the pressure and you looking right at it and see where they blitz him from?
Right. Well, we'll be
Brutal,
talking
man.
about him during the off season. We need to move forward, though. No blacks hired in the NFL again as a head coach. We're going to have John Wooten on, the co-founder of the Fritz Pollard Alliance, and he was also the person that pushed him and the late attorney Johnny Cochran push for the Rooney Rule. We spoke with him on yesterday. He's going to come on with us next week on 105.5 FM, The Beat out of Rochester on Saturday morning at 7 a.m. We're going to talk about why black coaches are, again, being ignored by owners as far as head coaches and front office positions. So,
don't you think the excuse was it wasn't that many on the offensive side of the ball? Okay, it's not that many on the offensive, which is true. But number two, you got Eric Bieniemy, who's on one of the most potent offenses in the league.
Right.
And he's been in that position almost 5 years. He's working under one of the best, Andy Reid. You could not give him a –
a lot of people believe that that's hurting him, working under Andy Reid, because now they're saying Andy Reid is running the offense. And you see how they do Leslie Frazier. Leslie Frazier, 26-year man. If anything, he's the senior guy on defense, but if you hear him talk, they say Sean McDermott's running the defense.
Right.
That's not true.
No, it's
Leslie
not true.
Frazier is running the defense.
No.
So is it hurting Eric Bieniemy working under a offensive guy like Andy Reid when you're being considered for front office positions? Remember, Mike Pettin basically said he had to get away from Rex Ryan because people thought Rex Ryan was running the defense.
Right, he sure did.
And that's when he came. He basically came to Buffalo under Doug Marrone.
That's right, because he had to get away from him and let me coach the defense. He's doing an excellent job because he's really a blitzing type guy too, and he's doing a great job with the Green Bay Packers this year. Everywhere he goes, he does a good job with the defense. I think you're right, but the only thing with the thing about Eric Bieniemy is he has to do the prep work. Andy Reid's not doing the prep work.
No, he's running the team.
He's running the team. He's prepping everything for the offense, and then Andy Reid comes in and tweaks it. But he knows the X's and O's. He knows what's going on. He knows how to put people in position to win.
And Andy Reid has said that.
Yeah.
Andy Reid says that this is a great, this guy needs to be a head coach right now. And you're seeing the same thing from Bruce Arians in Jacksonville. He's saying, hey, Byron Leftwich is going to be a head coach. This guy has made himself really a very good coordinator.
That's right.
And not Jacksonville, but Tampa Bay. I'm sorry. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is the offense coordinator there under Bruce Arians. He's done a pretty good job with Jameis Winston if he can get him to stop turning the ball.
Yeah, because that's not his fault on that. But he didn't get any interviews.
Right.
That we know of. He didn't get any interviews. So they didn't even have.
The only person of color hired this year was Ron Rivera.
Right.
And that's it. Blacks are not getting jobs.
No,
the last couple of years, and we're going to talk to John Wooten about that. We're about 1 week away from our wall-to-wall coverage at the Super Bowl. We're going to have some great people. The stars of Maverick, Monica Barbero and Glenn Powell are coming on with us on January the 31st.
Right.
Make sure you just tune in to all of our partners, and we'll make sure that you know what's going on at the Super Bowl from the beginning to the end.
And I believe that's the remake of Top Gun.
Yes, it's Top Gun Part
right?
2, really.
Part 2, yes, Part 2
it's called
of
Top Gun The Maverick.
Oh, The Maverick.
Yeah.
Okay. No Tom Cruise in this one.
No, Tom is old.
Tom is old. Oh, he's a little too old. Oh, these are younger folks.
They brought in the young crew, and they're going to be with us. We're going to have several guests. Each year, it's just a surprise on how many people you interview down at the Super Bowl, and we need everybody to follow us the whole time. We're going to be there for 8 days, bringing you the best information the entire Super Bowl week. All right, let's get to it. Championship weekend. What do you think? Let's start with the AFC. Tennessee Titans, the surprising Tennessee Titans, people are saying. But we've always said this team is deeply physical. I thought they should have beaten the Buffalo Bills when we were down there.
They out-physical them that day. As a matter of fact, that's the game where Darrell Casey tried to rip the arm of Cody Ford out of the socket.
Yeah, he just had surgery today.
Yeah, to repair that because Darrell Casey put that on him. And Darrell Casey is a guy, he's a one-man wrecking crew. Fletcher Cox, him and Fletcher Cox are two of the best in the game where you can't block them. You can put 2 men on them, and you still have trouble with them containing them in the hole because they're so big, they're massive, they're strong. And then he also has Leroy Simmons next to him too, the kid from Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big physical guy, number 98. You watch for number 98 and number 99 on Saturday. Watch them on defense and watch how the offensive line tries to double team them. And you'll see you can't go up the middle. That I thought Wake Martindale and those guys in the Ravens, their game plan was totally wrong. You don't run up the middle. You got to run to the outside against the Titans. And I think you're going to see KC going to the outside. You can't run up the middle. Those guys are too big, too strong. And you know, that's the first time I've ever seen Yanda, number 73. He was getting pushed back every play.
Right.
Man, he was all in
this
the back.
Is a perennial offensive lineman in this league, and he was getting beat down. They were really making it very difficult on Lamar Jackson, even though Lamar Jackson had an outstanding game.
Yes, he did.
His receivers did not have a good game. A lot of drops. Yeah.
He still came up with over 300 yards passing, and he had over 100 yards rushing. First time ever in the history of an NFL playoff game that a quarterback threw for over 300 yards and ran for over 100 yards. So he was really, even though
he did what he was supposed to.
He did. He held up his end of the bargain. The defense just couldn't, on that side of the ball, the linebackers, defensive end line, they could not contain Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry, once he gets going, he's a load to bring down.
Man, that's a big guy. Over 245 pounds. He's a big guy, runs very physical.
Mm-hmm.
He was very dominating on that day, threw a touchdown pass also.
Yeah.
And the change with the Tennessee Titans came at the quarterback position.
Yes.
People don't realize that when they were a deeply physical team, they were beating up teams, they were missing field goals.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is a weakness they have, is at the kicker position. But the change at quarterback for them was an outstanding move by Vrabel when he went from Marcus Mariota to Tannehill. Their season changed.
Yeah, and he stopped turning the ball over.
Right.
That was the biggest objective, is the ball stopped being turned over. Marcus Mariota was turning the ball over. He turned it over in the Bills game a few times. They were costly. The Bills kicked field goals and were able to eke that game out due to the Titans missing field goals. And you got to remember, Tannehill last week was 7 of 14 for 88 yards. To me, that's Joe Ferguson numbers. Joe Ferguson of the Bills handed off to the legendary O.J. Simpson. Those are the kind of numbers Joe Ferguson used to pick up back in the day of the electric company and the juice. Tennessee is turned on with Derrick Henry. They handed him the ball. And they got Taylor Law. He's back. Remember, he was coming back from a suspension.
They got a dominant receiver that has emerged, too.
They still got Jack Conklin from Michigan State.
Excellent.
He was all everything at Michigan State, the guard on the other side. So their line, they invested in drafting high quality guys on their offensive line. So watch out for this game.
Who are you picking in this game?
Tennessee, unfortunately, going to get spread out on the defensive side, and Kansas City should win this by 10 points.
Kansas City by 10.
By 10.
All right, on the NFC side, this is an interesting game. Green Bay Packers against the upstart San Francisco 49ers. One person people are not talking about that we found out is that Martin Mayhew is a main cog in the development of this team, along with Jim Lynch. You were questioning Jim Lynch, but all of a sudden he hires a guy like Martin Mayhew, and you see who's really putting in the work on getting in the personnel, and they've done a pretty good job putting together that team.
They certainly have. They've done a hell of a job putting that team together. And the third factor, which I forgot to realize, I didn't know about Martin Mayhew until recently, but the other side of it is Kyle Shanahan invested in his father's zone blocking scheme.
Right.
And they're using that controversial zone blocking scheme where they take the legs out of the defensive players and run that ball on a zone read type system. Denver was very successful. Denver won 2 Super Bowls with that blocking scheme. 49ers this year, man, they look awesome. They look unstoppable with this blocking scheme. And they're running back, the one Mosette, he's a special teamer.
Right.
He's not even a regular running back, and he's just breaking. Every time I see San Francisco, he's having big games in the backfield. And Tevin Coleman came over from the Falcons. We saw Tevin in the Super Bowl a few years ago when the Falcons went, and now he's looking like a totally different running back in this system.
the Green Bay Packers, they strong team. Aaron
Strong
Rodgers,
team.
Jamal Adams.
Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones. I was in Green Bay last year when Aaron Jones had his first touchdown. His first touchdown was against the Bills. His first NFL touchdown. This year he was one of the league leaders in touchdowns. I didn't realize that. They're quietly playing a very good game. Mike Pettin, defensive coordinator, got
Big
those guys.
change for them on defense.
And the key players, Zadarius Smith, came over from the Ravens. So imagine if Zadarius Smith was still with the Ravens. Man, that guy would still be – the Ravens' defense would have been a lot stronger. But they really lost a lot in losing him. And he's made Green Bay very substantial, very real. And it's Green Bay is getting 7.5, which means the 49ers are favored by 7.5. I'm going with the Packers. I'm looking forward to a Green Bay, Kansas City Super Bowl.
Green Bay, Kansas City, and Super Bowl 54, according to the Radman.
But footnote, I've been wrong on the 49ers. I've only been right on the 49ers once all season.
Nobody picked the 49ers to be where they are. Nobody. Nobody picked them.
No.
But we'll see what happens. If you want to hear more about this, we're going to talk more about Championship Weekend on 105.5 FM this Saturday at 7 a.m. Make sure you tune in to us. And for the Radman and the Mighty Oba, we thank you. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and all of our mediums. We are going to be putting forth one of the best coverages in Super Bowl history. It is going to be a digital masterpiece. I'm the Mighty Oba here with the Radman here on Pro Talk. We'll see you next week. I'm the Mighty Oba.